Welcome. This video is the sixth in the reinforcement series for the Selling Value program. And today we'll be discussing the negotiation step of the ADANCT sales process. When we face negotiation, which we almost always do in a sales opportunity, our relationship with our customer may come under stress and the trust between us can be tested. A number of times through this program that you've been involved in, we've talked about the impact of our emotions and the impact they can have on successfully moving through the sales process. We must manage our emotions to ensure that they are always positive and constructive. Negative emotions often surface in negotiation, unfortunately, probably more so than in any other time within a sales process. In his inaugural speech, John F. Kennedy stated, "Let us never negotiate out of fear, but let us never fear to negotiate." Fear is one of our most debilitating emotions. When we can remove all fear from our sales activity, negotiation will be put in its rightful place. Our perspectives of negotiation is, our perspective of what negotiation is influences our success. If we perceive it as a win-lose proposition, we're likely to lose our focus on the customer and the customer needs and the value proposition. If we enter negotiations thinking that for the customer to win, we have to lose, then we will lose. Keep in mind that if the customer enters negotiations in the same frame of mind, we also have a negotiation challenge. Assuming you're focused on building a long-term relationship with the customer, then you have to get beyond win-lose. Otherwise, in a long run, you may win the battle, but lose the war. Egos and emotions often appear when negotiation begins. You'll sometimes come across people who want to win at your expense. Sometimes customers have learnt to expect negotiation as a combat, and they prepare for it accordingly. Unfortunately, when your customer or you let ego and emotion surface in negotiations, logic and objectivity is lost. So we need to manage our ego and emotions. Plus, we need to adapt and respond to the customer's ego and emotions. Let's talk about each and how to solve them. Generally, emotions are easier to deal with than egos. When your customer is displaying emotions, I would suggest you encourage them to talk. In most cases, you will ultimately get them to the core of the issues they've got in mind. And only then you'll be able to address it, or address them. The ego is a little more difficult. However, by understanding the customer's behavioural style, you can often work out how to react or respond to them in a way that dissipates the influence of their ego on their actions. And what about your ego? One of the most powerful ways to keep your ego in check is to use the three-step process for handling objections that we learnt about in the training program. Remember those? ACR, acknowledge, clarify, respond. When you sincerely and effectively acknowledge the concern or objection that the customer has, then clarify your understanding of the key issues, and then respond with respect, you remove or reduce that fight or flight instinct that customers often have. The psychology of this is extremely powerful. One of the greatest needs people have is to be understood and valued. Most of us are willing to exchange our objections for understanding and value. Think about it. By this I mean that we'll often soften our position or be open to compromise if we think the other person sincerely values us and understands us. Value and understanding shown to people may also cause the people to reciprocate. We tend to get back from people the same feelings and attitudes that we give to them. When people see that you truly understand how they feel, they are more inclined to reciprocate or be open to your ideas and are more open to your suggestions. Your sincerity, though, is absolutely essential for this to occur. If you've demonstrated sincerity and developed trust, you can rightfully use this method, the ACR method, to handle objections in each of the approach, discovery, and demonstrate and authenticate steps of the ADANCT process. On the other hand, applying this method will seem contrite and insincere to the client if their level of trust and confidence in you has not been established. Be sure to check your own level of sincerity. The best actors find it difficult to fake sincerity. Your customers will immediately sense how genuine you are, and will see you as a fraud if you're not sincere. So with that as a background, let's review the 4 key principles for effective negotiation. First of all, seek objections. Draw out any remaining objections or concerns the customer has. Secondly, understand the objection. Celebrate objections and gain understanding. Third, drill down. Seek out specific concerns. And fourth, agree solutions. Discuss possible solutions and ask the customer's opinion. These are the 4 principles we need to practice over the coming days. And we're going to share your experiences. You're going to share your experiences at the next reinforcement session. So good luck with this. But to help you understand it more and be ready to put it into practice, let's go through them in a little bit more detail. The first principle is to seek objections. Seek out what concerns or objections remain in the mind of the customer. You know, in my experience, most people don't welcome objections. They want to avoid conflict and hope objections won't be raised. As a professional salesperson, you need to have the courage to face the truth. Be excited that the customer has voiced their concern. Why? Well, in most cases, it means that they're seriously considering your offering. Do what you can to draw them out. You might ask a simple question like, what concerns do you have at this time, Mr. Customer, that I have not yet addressed? This sort of question will help draw out the prospective customer's real objections, particularly if to date they're not felt comfortable about expressing them. Face objections with courage. It means you are making positive progress towards gaining a commitment from your customer. The second principle is to welcome and understand objections. As your customer talks about their concerns about your recommended solution, it's important to give positive, non-defensive acceptance to them. You can do this by nodding affirmatively, or by stating your understanding and by showing how you value the feedback that they're giving. This positive response on your part demonstrates your appreciation and respect for their point of view. In doing so, though, ensure that you are 100% sincere. Otherwise, what you say will almost certainly be construed as manipulative. The third negotiation principle is to drill down, to seek out and explore specific concerns. Once you understand the main issue the customer has, you might restate it by saying something like, if I understand correctly, the key concern you have is this, and then repeat in your own words what you understand the concern to be. As you do this, some very important things will occur. First, you're communicating that you were sincerely listening and heard the customer's concern. This is again an important way we show another person that we value them. For most salespeople who have listened intently, particularly during the discovery stage of the process, it's a real challenge not to begin to interrupt or prematurely problem solve at that stage. Secondly, when you ask this question and encourage your customer to clarify or elaborate on the concerns, you allow that person, your customer, to firm up in their own mind the specifics of the concern and its degree of importance. Often after this, they'll decide themselves that it's not important. It's really important that once people agree that you identified the main issue, that you need to go ahead and get agreement that they want to address it, because often they don't. You probably won't continue if this is the case, but if they're still interested in pursuing that concern, you'll use the fourth principle: discuss possible solutions and seek agreement. It helps to consider negotiation as a joint exercise between you and your customer to remove roadblocks. As this principle suggests, it may include a balanced discussion around the value of your proposed solution, maybe other solutions, or a discussion around modifications to your proposal. When you practice the final three principles that we've just gone through for negotiation, you have in fact used the objection handling process that we discussed. The three steps of the process are acknowledge, clarify, and respond. Now, this negotiation topic would not be complete without discussing price concerns. We can all prematurely be drawn into negotiation when a prospective customer asks, "How much does this cost?" before there is any complete understanding of the value of your offering to the customer's business. If you haven't yet determined if your product or service will address the customer's needs, then it doesn't make any difference how much it costs. That said, people often ask how much it is before they know how you're going to help them. So this really becomes one of the hardest things for many salespeople to handle. That is, to respond effectively when a customer wants to get to the pricing issue and you're not ready for that discussion. The circumstances will dictate how you are going to answer it. One way, given the right circumstances, is to say something along the lines of, "I understand you have a need to manage your costs, Mr. Customer, and we'll determine the price as soon as we possibly can. Until I fully understand your needs and we can agree on the best way to address them, and doing that in some detail, I'm not in a position to configure the solution for you and thus not able to price it yet. Can we wait until then to give you a price?" Any financially responsible customer will want to be sure that they have negotiated the best possible price for the goods or services. So it's understanding that they'll want to move to that. In fact, we know that customers must be a good steward of their resources. You probably don't want to work with a customer that's not. But at the same time, you and your organisation have every right to be compensated for the value you provide. So the issue of price cannot be viewed any differently than that of selling in general. It must be a mutual exchange of value. So, in conclusion of this video, I'd like to quote the brilliant essayist and poet Ralph Waldo Emerson. He stated, "Every excess causes a deficit. If the scales don't balance, someone wins and someone loses." That's okay when comparing you and your competitor. However, when a valued relationship with your customer is at stake, it leads to a demise of that relationship. By applying the negotiate principles, we make a win-win possible for both us and our customers. I wish you successful win-win negotiations, and we look forward to our next session together.